Hi, my name is Latonya McGill, and I will be talking to you today about the Imperial War Museum and the significance of it, or the important primary source that I thought that stood out to me about the museum is that it was established in 1917, and this particular museum was a museum that was for the men and women who served in the military or the war. These particular people that had different things that they established while in the war. Some of them did like paintings, some had diaries, some had memoirs. And these particular people, they wanted to show Britain how important they were, so they opened up a museum to show how much they appreciate their men and women for their services, and they want to be able to keep some monumental things inside the museum to show them the things that they some of the things that they went through, some that they're, was real nice. And the museum was founded, of course, in 1917, but it wasn't open to the public till around 1920. However, the place that they picked was Crystal Palace at Sydenham Hill. This particular place, they started off, but it wasn't room enough to house the things that they were collecting at the time, because they had things like army tanks and bullets and bullet shells, and like some of the things that were made for the service that were pretty big. And so this particular place wasn't able to house the things that they had, so they had to expand and find another place. They actually moved 3 times, but the last place that they stopped at was Bethel Royal Hospital in Southwark. The museum at this time was collecting for personal and official documents from the First World War. At this particular time, World War I had begun, and the things that they were collecting was just from that particular war. They hadn't got to the Second War, which was World War II at the time. So this place that they had, they was able to get the building, but in order for them to get the building, they had to get funding from the government. The government had to help pay for these buildings. Not only the government, but it was different types of charity that funded to help these people raise money to be able to keep the museum open for the people to be able to come through and tour. And the museum at the time was free for people to get in. The admission was free, so they'll be able to see what Britain went through and the things the men and women collected during those times. They want to be able to put it on display that you can see. And one thing that stood out to me was Sir Alfred Munn. He was the one that was able to get the proposal done for the museum. And when he got the proposal done, everything didn't go as smooth during the time, but he was able to get the funding to be able to open the museum. And also the museum had 5 different branches that it stemmed from up underneath the Imperial Museum. Its original name was National War Museum, but they wanted another name, so they went with the Imperial War Museum. And the 5 different ones that was branched from underneath them were, one was the Dexford in 1976, and then you had HMS Belfast in 1978, and the one that was pretty popular as well was Churchill War Room in 1984. The fifth members of the IWM, which is the Imperial War Museum family, it was Northern, and it opened in Transford, Greater Manchester on the 5th of July in 2002. These particular places were still being established at the moment. Not all of them were open at the same time, but they was known from getting started from the Imperial War Museum. So the things that they had at this particular museum, they branched off and also had at these other 5 places, so that people will be able to tour them, not just in one particular building, but they wanted to show them how much they was greatly appreciated by making just one establishment for the people. Also, they had during the 1970s and the 1980s, they underwent a period of unpredicted expansion with the establishment. Like I was saying earlier, they had to be able to get funding to be able to make it bigger and better for the people. So they had, of course, go get funding to be able to branch the other 5 that I talked about just a little while ago. And also, it was formally established by the Act of Parliament in 1920, and the governing board of trustees was appointed. They was able to basically agree upon them getting the museum established. Also, I'm going to talk about, it was 2 paintings that was there that stood out to me, that the men painted at the time, and it was like really touching to me, because it was one of the arts that were Imperial War Museum. Is called the Kingston at Laventi. This painting was one of the ones that was shown with hands of experience that was mainly by the public of Britain. It also showed a huge public acclaim for Britain's soldiers on the Western Front. Here is the portrait of Kingston, who painted himself in it. The portrait was something he had experienced while he was at war and was able to capture the moment at that time. So I'm going to show you the painting that Kingston painted, and it was nice. It's Over the Top by John Nash, but it was the Kingston portrait. If you can see, though, that's a nice portrait. And I think, it was, something that he said at that particular time that he went through, and it was able to ease his mind, letting him know that, he was at war, but he was able to show, the things that he went through and the things that stayed in his mind at war with the trenches. You see the people in the trenches that died, but he's the man that's in the black coat. If you can see it, that's him right here. He painted himself in there like he's like out of it. If you can really see the painting, he showed himself going through it. And also, not just that particular painting, but another one that stood out to me was, it was called, this one. It's called Shop for Machines, 15-inch Shells by Anna Airy. You also, if you can see there, this particular machine shop was a machine shop that the women worked in at the particular wartime. It was a machine shop by Anna Airy. This was the workshop that the women worked in during the war, so that the men would have their ammo and the battleships. They made missiles for the battleships that would go out to war. and they were showing how the women worked these particular things for the men. And not only that, they were able to get things done for the men, so the men wouldn't have to worry about like ammo, the missiles and things of that nature. They were able to get those things done for the men and ship them off so they be able to continue to fight in the war, Britain War. And I thought the significance of something that I read, it said, behind every good man is a good woman. And I believe that quote, or that saying, to be true, because at this time during the war, the women were behind the men. And it really tells you, speak volumes to me, because it shows how the woman was still in the background, but yet she was significant at that time during the war to help out men. Also, I want to show a clipping of also with the it's the, like, it's a little clipping on YouTube where it shows the different types of things that the museum house. I'm gonna show you just a brief clipping of something I thought that was significant about the London War. It's no volume, but it's just showing the different things that they have on display at the museum. And I thought some of the things were significant for Britain. And this man here was Sir Alfred Munn, the one that I mentioned earlier in the clipping, the man that founded the museum. Here is showing like the portraits of the people that in war, the news clippings and things of that nature, to show you just some of the things they collected to put also in the museum. Just like some of the portraits of the men and some of their clothes and hats and things that they wore. And I thought this was really significant. And they showing you like some of the airplanes and things that they used back then. And you can see the army tanks that I mentioned and some of the missiles as well. I thought this was really, really vital. Some nice things that were kept for the Britain people, or British people. I thank you for taking the time to be able to listen to my presentation. I hope this was vital information. Thank you. Bye-bye.